Let's hear from the Democrats now. Delaware Senator Tom Carper is a member of the Senate Finance Committee. No shoe-throwing underway there, certainly, Senator. We are hearing that Senator Conrad is talking about the possibility of $4 trillion in deficit reduction over the next 10 years. Do you know anything about how that is achieved?
Yeah. Well, you may recall a year or so ago, the president appointed a deficit commission co-chaired by Erskine Bowles and by former Senator Alan Simpson. That commission, 11 out of the 18 commission members, recommended a path forward on deficit reduction that added up to roughly $4 trillion over 10 years, roughly two-thirds of it on the spending side, a third on the revenue side. They did not call for raising tax rates. They did call for broadening the tax base and eliminating a number of so-called tax expenditures. So it turns out we have about $15 trillion worth of tax expenditures, tax breaks, tax credits, all kinds of things that add up to about $15 trillion over the next 10 years. And if we could find maybe 10% of those to reduce, we could have a pretty good deficit reduction deal that did $4.5 trillion, two-thirds on the spending side, and a third on the revenue side without actually raising the rates.
What about waste? It's my understanding you're an advocate of reducing waste in the federal budget. How much could you squeeze?
A lot of people are fearful on the Medicare and Medicaid side. Folks, Democrats, Independents, and some Republicans are concerned about savaging Medicare and Medicaid. If you actually look at Medicare and Medicaid, there's something that the General Accountability Office tells us, GAO tells us, there's some, we call them improper payments. Improper payments last year for Medicare were $50 billion. The Attorney General, Eric Holder, tells us that last year fraud in Medicare was $60 billion. If we could just cut half of those, cut those in half, and do that over 10 years, we'd be talking about deficit reduction in Medicare alone of over $500 billion without reducing benefits, but just going after some of the inefficient spending, wasteful spending.
We spoke last hour with Karl Rove, who says that the president really needs to get out in front and lead on this issue. In one of his opinion pieces, he said that this could be a Nixon goes to China moment if the president would lead and come up with some big deficit reduction numbers here. Do you see that happening?
Well, I'm encouraged that the president has decided to be, as we say around here, at the adult in the room. This could be a Nixon goes to China. This could be Clinton does welfare reform. I think the best jobs bill that we could pass, that I can think of right now, would be to pass a comprehensive, balanced deficit reduction plan, $4 trillion or more, mostly on the spending side, but some on the revenue side. I think that would send a strong signal to the business community and frankly to the rest of the world that we're able to govern, that we're still able to work together, to reach across the party lines, to reach common sense solutions. We need that, and I think a lot of good will flow. And what did Rutherford B. Hayes used to say, good policy makes good politics? I think there's actually political gain for both parties if we're actually able to demonstrate and come up with something that's fair, balanced, and reasonable and stimulates economic growth.
What about just simplifying the tax code? So many people would welcome that.
Well, part of this Deficit Commission's recommendation was to eliminate and reduce the very large tax expenditures that we have. That's part of what makes the code so complex. And there's, I forget how many tens of thousands of pages are in the code today, but a lot of that relates to these tax expenditures, tax breaks and tax credits, tax deductions, some of which are good and we just don't want to tamper with. Some are probably not as much value. And I think we can do some of that. Broaden the base, keep the rates either where they are, actually bring them down a little bit, especially on the corporate side, and eliminate some of the tax expenditures that frankly don't amount to as much.
Senator Tom Carper is a Democrat from Delaware. Senator, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care.